Let's talk about affordable classic cars. Everybody wants a shiny, $70,000 Barracuda or something. This is a 79 Firebird. This is my personal car. It's very clean. It's had a few touch-ups and blends on it, but it's never been fully painted. At least not that I can tell. When I put it on the hoist, there's zero rust under this car. It's never been welded on. It's all nasty and oily from being sprayed with oil. I picked this up. All I'll say is I picked it up in 2018 for less than $4,000. Not supposed to say what I paid, but whatever. It was under $4,000, and then I threw $1,000 worth of parts and, certification for the road and all that crap. So we did the shocks, the brakes, and the entire front end. Now, if you're wondering why it sits high on the front and just nice in the back, it still has its original coils, and Firebird's had a taller coil than Camaro. Now, if you replace them with a generic spring, you get the Camaro coil. But the reason they sat like this is when they made the fast ones with the big blocks in the 70s, the idea was it would put power to the back and sink, right? So I didn't want a resto mod or none of that. I left the springs in. I did new shocks, all the bushings and the control arms. We did all that stuff. You could have built this in 2018 for $5,000 and throw some seat covers on it. You'd have been good to go. So there's little paint coming off here and there, stuff like that. Most of the rubbers are intact, but like you can see, there's a little spot missing there. I got those brand new, but I'm not going to bother putting them on until we paint it. The seats need to be redone. You could do seat covers. Dash has one little crack, but it's fair. Now this is an Esprit, so you got a clock and then all gauges, even way over there, so no idiot lights, which is nice. I took the headliner out because it was starting to come undone, so I'm going to redo that and put it back in. And I think we're going to go with a black headliner, and I think I'm going to go with a black carpet, and I think we're going to go with black buckets. I'm going to reupholster the back seats in black. The black dash, I can get them for $200, $300, $400 all day long on Marketplace. This blue color, I can get all the upholstery. It's 3 times the money the black stuff is. I'll replace this. The other one's okay. We're gonna have to do what we got to do. I might just order new ones and get them in black, and then we'll dye all the panels, and you get the idea. I'm probably gonna black out the interior because the blue's just too expensive. Unless I come up with a different idea, but I think the blue with black inside will be nice. I will repaint this down the road, but it's nice enough that I don't have to. So, affordable classic car, can you afford it? I did that for $5,000. Today that would probably be 10. These cars are slowly becoming sought out. Now I'm talking about Ontario, Canada. Down in the States, maybe you get these for cheap. If you like the Camaros, get a Camaro, get a Nova, get whatever you want. My point is, you can get a pretty nice car, and maybe you don't get the Trans Am model, but maybe you get one that runs, drives, and the stuff is good, right? That was the idea behind this. And when I first put this together, sorry about that, I kind of put a theme to it, which was high school. If I had this back in 1989, 91, in high school, what would I have done to it? Well, we ran Buick wheels. These are new. I just put these on a week or so ago. Well, they're new to me. Anyway, I've got a bunch of them old Buicks. So I did 14-inch on the front with 15s on the back and fat tires on the back only. Because it was cheap and affordable. I had them kicking around. It's the kind of thing we would have done in high school. When you're broke and you got no money, you can barely afford your car, let alone gas, let alone tires. So that's what you do. At any rate, I made a deal on another vehicle, and I got these wheels off it. They're 8.5s, and the back space is ½ an inch out. So if I would have had the turbo wheels, this is about where they would sit, plus ½ an inch. And what I like about them It's just to say they flush out with the edge of the chrome on the fender. You could almost put a straight edge on the tire and just touch the chrome. They're perfect for this car. And I can turn the wheel any which way, nothing touches. No, it's not perfect, it's not a Bandit, it's not all these other crazy things, it's not a 71 Super Duty, but it's a pretty nice car and I can build it any which way I want, and it's affordable. There's some stuff over there. They need a lot of work, they're not affordable, so we're not going to talk about those. 56 Chevy two-door sedan wagon. So let's talk about cars you can't afford. This guy's putting a lot of dollars into this. I got videos on that. We're not going to do a video about that now. It's a 63 Caddy. We're doing it in a nice red. Way too much money was put into this. The car's not even worth what we're going to have into this. This is what scares people. They think everything's going to turn into this, but it doesn't have to. In the case of my Firebird that I just showed you outside, you could drive that for 4 or 5 years, save up maybe $1.50 a year, go get it painted. It doesn't need a lot of body work. Here's a very fine example of super cheap muscle. Wait a minute. That can't be a real GT Sport. That's a 69 Dark. That's got lots of... Who'd put those stickers on such a minty car? Why is the hood red-orange? Anyway. Yeah, I was just being kind of funny. So what this is this is a car put together with spare parts. Allow me to explain. A good friend of mine, and I do a lot of work on his cars, and I do paint jobs for him now. He's a Mopar guy. He has more cars than I've got fingers. And I've got all my fingers. Wait a minute. Yeah, I do. Okay, so he built a 68 Dart, and he went beyond crazy stupid with it. So he got new chrome re-chromed bumpers. He got new this, new that, new wipers. The hood had to be perfect and it had to be original. He hunted for it. All the trim had to be absolutely phenomenal. You get the idea. He went to town. He did one of those restorations that scares us. The reason we think we can't afford a nice car is because people go out and blow like, oh, I blew 50, 60 grand on that thing. You know, you've heard the stories, and this is why I want to do this video. You can do that, and that's all great. I get paid to do that for people. It's fun. I enjoy it. I can't even afford it, which is why I showed you my car first. Now I'm going to show you this car. So this car probably had a life for 10, 15 years. The bottom got a little bit shitty. Someone threw Bondo on it, painted it orange, and took it to the track. This was a street and strip drag car, and he trailered it to the track. There's a frame tie under the car, and there's a few brackets welded in to make it real solid. So I'm assuming it probably had some horse. And we talked to a few guys that remember this racing. This thing used to go down to, give me a second, Shannonville, Ontario in Canada. And it spent a lot of its life as a track car. It was a 344 speed. I'll show you what's in it later. My buddy found this car looking for parts for his 68 Resto, and all that was there was the body from here back. So he basically got the shell with the doors and the trunk lid. There was no bumpers, no trim, no gas cap, no gas tank. There was an axle under it, but it was like no good. Now the front, I think aprons were hanging out, but there was no K-frame, no suspension, nothing. So what had happened, somebody raced this car for a lot of years, then they retired it. Another guy bought the car, and he was going to restore it. He started buying parts and doing some work, and then all of a sudden he came across a shell that came up from Arizona. It wasn't welded on, it hadn't been patched up, and it was real nice, so he took the Arizona shell, all his parts, and this car is a donor, and he stripped everything off it, and he built the other car. So my buddy got this shell for $2,500 with a title. which is half the battle, because sometimes you come across these really cool deals and they're all over Marketplace. You know, wow, that's a good deal. Yeah, no paperwork, but you can get that. I'll give you a receipt. Hey, I don't know where you live, what province, what state, but sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's just not going to happen. So this came with an Ontario registered title. So he brought this home, and what he knew when he brought this home was he had this hood that is totally fine, but it's a painted aftermarket hood and he didn't like it, and he didn't want to put it on his restored 68, so it sat in the back shed. He had a really good interior, but it wasn't the correct interior. For whatever reason, this wasn't good enough. There's no wear. This is beautiful. So there's that one little spot right there, but that's it. The rest of this interior is perfect, but this isn't what would have been in his 68, so he went with all new stuff. He put this interior away. He had bought a carpet, and then he had bought another carpet, so there's a new carpet in here. He's got a bunch of dirt in it. That's weird. Usually his stuff is spotless. But at any rate, he had a carpet. He threw it in. Now, the car does have the headliner in it, and it did come with that, and it came with the dash. But there's holes in it. So the guy that had this car actually gave him, he had ordered one, and I guess he ordered a second one, so we have a headliner, is my point. He put I think he had to replace the dash, but the pad up here, I can't catch it on camera. There is a crack up there. You can kind of just barely see it, but that's just a dash out of whatever he had kicking around in the back 40, and he just painted it and threw it in. But you betcha, 4-speed. So you can see, you know, like wear and tear. The sill plates are nice. A couple of dings. They're tarnished. Not good enough for the other car. The rubber here. Well, this might have come with it. The car, I think, did have... He had to put a window in it, but I think it came with all the windows. One must have had a bad regulator. Now, what he didn't have that he had to buy 2 front fenders. And he bought aftermarket. He scuffed them and shot them and threw them on. The downside is, you're not going to see it on camera, but there you go. You see that? They're very ripply right in that spot. He should have body worked them. But again, this car wasn't that. Let me show you the gas cap. It's nice, but, you know, there's some pitting in it. These bumpers are actually really, really in good shape, but you can see there's some staining and some pitting in them. You have pitting in the bezels. This is a restorable piece, but it's definitely not perfect. You know, you could restore it. Not necessarily good enough, though, for a perfect car. Bezels, somebody hand-painted. They're kind of so-so. Bumper has some pitting and staining, just like the back one. He had all these parts kicking around, so he bought that shell, and he threw this together with spare parts. Now this car, according to the tag, I think he said he believes it to be a 340 4-speed car. Well, he didn't have a 69 340, but he did have a 1970 340 with the attached 4-speed and everything, and the radiator, and he had salvaged all that out of some other car that got wrecked or something years ago, and it was all 1970 340. That's close enough for this car. We don't have to numbers match this car. How come? Well, look at the grill. There's a little ding there. You could probably massage that out. There's another one over there. Look. Seems he was missing a... Well, it's a kind of a new-ish light. There's some spider cracks in it, but it's nice. And this one is terrible. You should replace that one. I don't know if you can get them. Probably. Aftermarket would be fine for this car. Wow, look, that's gold. He probably just pulled that off of something and it happened to be that color. That thing's black with, well, whatever. So, If you think you can't afford to put a car together, $2,500 shell, let's say worst case scenario, $1,000 for fenders. Hood, what, 400 or 500? This particular hood with this stuff, maybe $1,000. It depends where you are, right? This is all pitted a little bit. It's not bad. If you had an old original car, it'd be totally fine, but on a perfect car, you'd restore that. But on this car, that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. 344 barrel. Look at the wipers. They're in great shape. Totally tarnished. They probably sat in the sun in the junkyard for 20 years. He likely just put new blades on them. Not good enough for most cars. Totally fine for this car. Well, look, wheels and tires. 14-inch, which kind of sucks. Is that what they are? Yeah, they are. Now there's a little bit of pitting. You could probably polish that out. This one's got quite a bit of pitting. Actually, if you look in here, yeah, some of them go bad there, right around the wheel nuts. So that's the thing. They're usable. The tires are good. You could probably pick those up on Marketplace or Craigslist or Kijiji or wherever you go. Like $500, $600, $700 for a nice set of wheels and tires with a little bit of tarnish or something. You know, these, I'm assuming 14-inch, $500. I could probably pick those up for maybe a little more, but you get the idea. You can get something, right? So you could put very little money into a car like this. And all it's going to take you is a year or two of your weekends to put it together. You can probably find, if you don't have this interior that he had, you could find a usable back seat somewhere. Maybe the shell you find has it, but you spend maybe an extra $1,000 buying it. You can't get the right buckets. Well, they do got those Amazon, buckets, which are whatever they are, and they're black, so whatever. But I mean, what I like to do, go to like a N95 Mustang, like the 98 or newer. They got real nice seats. The brackets are low. You can put them down wherever you need. It won't be original or correct, but my point is, nothing on this car is right or correct. But as a whole, this car is pretty cool. It runs, it drives, there's a 340 in it. Now, where he did spend money, new suspension, new brakes all the way around, he did all that stuff. The car's safe. The spring packs were rebuilt or new or whatever they were. Stuff like that, gas tank, dual exhaust, so probably, I don't know, $500-600 worth of that. It's nothing crazy underneath. He used Dynamax or something, or Power Max, whatever they're called. The Napa, I think they're Napa mufflers. They're about $150 each. Yeah, I know, it adds up, right? But I mean, I'm thinking I could add this car up for about 10-12K. And I mean, you've got a car that's drivable. Now let me show you what's not nice yet. So the corner of the door right there, both sides. We're gonna cut that out and fix it. Rockers are rotten and a little bit of the quarter. We're gonna cut that out and fix it. A little bubbling in there. And on the other side, this is kind of rotten in the one spot. So what I'm going to do for my buddy, we're not restoring the car. I know I normally, hey, let's do paint videos or whatever, but in this case, we're going to cut all the rot off, repair it all with new metal. We're literally going to paint it below that body line. You see the shadow. We're going to paint it from the shadow line down. We're going to stop right at the edge of the sticker. We're going to mix the orange the same way he did the fenders. We're just going to paint that bottom of the car. We're not touching up any of these marks. This is, everyone talks about patina when a car's half rotten. This is what patina actually is. It's wear, it's tear. This was a race car, so the hood had been on here and probably did the scratching. There's scratches over there too, stuff like that. You can see where the paint's bright, then light and not, and it's kind of weird because it kind of faded. This sat in a shed and this was exposed to the sun. And back here it's almost milky, but it's not terrible. Now, it doesn't mean a guy can't wash the hell out of this and do like a wax and polish on it, and that's where you stop. Anyway, you could build this for $10,000, $12,000. Maybe you don't got the 340 kit. but you could easily buy a 318 with a old school 4-barrel and intake, and get a set of X or J heads. See, I'm not a mechanic, but I know a little bit. You could also buy like a decent running 360 and a transmission out of something in the 70s. And honestly, in this little Dart, the torque out of one of those, I know they're low horse, but there's plenty of torque. You could throw a cam in it, and this would be loads of car with that in it. No, this is not going to be the best car in the world ever. But if you want to rip around in a cool Dart, stickers all over it, you know, like a teenaged asshole in 1982, you know, high school, you can, and it would be fun. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to black out the hood, because when this car was a race car, it always had a black hood apparently. So we're going to black out the hood, we're going to run a tape line here, and we're going to curve it up into this window line. And we're going to paint that too, because that's the ugliest thing on the car. Someone spray painted a hood or something, and this black just won't come off. And if you try to clean it, you're going to end up dulling the hell out of it. We're going to black the hood and the cowl panel out.